Hi everyone, this is Citlalli. I am the producer and editor of Nicantlaco Women Warriors at Nicantlaco University. Even though I have made videos before explaining Raza Cosmica, today I really wanted to sit with you guys and really dissect the different writings that he produced in the 20s and 30s and how that contributes to the furthering of the white supremacist concept of Raza Cosmica. It is really important to note that Jose Vasconcelos was a eugenist. He was a supporter of Hitler, and he was a paid propagandist for a magazine produced by Germans in the German embassy in Mexico in the 40s. We're going to talk about all of that today. To begin, let's talk a little bit about who was Jose Vasconcelos. Jose Vasconcelos was born in Oaxaca in 1882 to parents of European ancestry. It is really important to note that he was appointed Secretary of Education by at that point, President Obregón. Now, this is his essay that he wrote in 1925. Let me read the very first quote that is printed in this edition of Raza Cosmica. And it says, "The days of the pure whites, the victors of today, are as numbered as were the days of their predecessors. Having fulfilled their destiny of mechanizing the world, they themselves have set, without knowing it, the basis for the new period, the period of the fusion and the mixing of all peoples." To expand on this notion that basically our ancestors weren't anything of any meaningful importance to the world, let us dig into the prologue that was written in 1948. This is what he says. "In fact, the decline of Asiatic peoples can be attributed to their isolation, but also and without doubt primarily to the act that they were not Christianized. A religion such as Christianity made the American Indians advance in a few centuries from cannibalism to a relative degree of civilization." That in itself continues this legacy of white supremacy. So he's saying that we went from cannibalism to a relative degree of civilization. So it's relative, not really fully, but they were working on it. That's the problem with Raza Cosmica. And don't get me wrong, I understand a lot of us say raza, a lot of us say viva la raza, because we don't know this, because it's been presented in such a positive light. Our people in the Chicano movement didn't know the real truth behind this. It was barely emerging. The knowledge of our people or the decolonization was just getting out there. So this is not to shame our people that use this term ignorantly. This is to enlighten us and to educate us and to share with you this information, because this guy was a white supremacist. He was a criollo. He was a eugenist, and he despised our people. He despised us as indigenous people, full blood or mixed blood. He despised us all. So it's really important to be very critical. So this is an example. This was the first publication of Raza Cosmica, and this is the latest one that I found on Amazon. And as far as his contribution to a German magazine, so basically Germany was really trying to find influential people in Latin America that were able to promote the ideas of Nazism. So who they found was Jose Vasconcelos, who was not only a paid propagandist, he was the director of this magazine. Now, it's important to note that this magazine didn't last too long. This magazine was around for a few editions, and let me get you the actual dates on that. It's important because this was from February through June of 1940. And Jose Vasconcelos was the complete director behind such a magazine. And it's important, this article that I'm reading from, it's in Spanish. It was written by A. Bar Lawal. And the title of the article in Spanish is La Revista Timón y la Colaboración Nazi de Jose Vasconcelos. You can find this. This is an academic journal. This was written in the 60s. And basically, this article argues that the white supremacist eugenist approach of Jose Vasconcelos has been overlooked by the zealous nationalism of Mexican modernity. And he points to various examples written, and basically he also highlights how Jose Vasconcelos in Raza Cosmica, in other writings, in Timon, he basically shows his racism against all non-white people. And specifically in Timon, he actually supported Hitler, and he actually thought Hitler was going to win, and that he would then lead the way to Jose Vasconcelos becoming the president of Mexico. That is all written in the article Timon. So you guys, please check it out. These are the receipts, you guys. I'm telling you, the information is there. Not only that, but this article actually highlights other collaborators in this magazine, and it's also included Dr. Att. Dr. Att is seen as a very, radical philosopher, artist of around the same time, 20s and 30s, and he also participated in Timon. So we got to be very critical of who we choose to idolize as far as liberation. So it's also really important so that we understand where this idea comes from. And another thing that I wanted to point out is that the concept of Raza Cosmica, the concept of Mestizaje, it was seen as a project of modernity in Mexico. This is at a time where Mexico had just survived the revolution, which many argue it was a civil war, and they were trying to reinvent themselves. They were trying to rejuvenate the nation. They were trying to redefine themselves. And so what Raza Cosmica did, and this is completely backed up in the other writings of Jose Vasconcelos, is offer Mexico a new racial identity that also incorporated tons of European aspects to it, because Mexico and the Mexican Criollo elite really wanted to participate in the global economy of white supremacy. So this was their ticket into the white club of universal economy and culture. Really important. Now, I'm gonna also read, this is, I'm using some of the research done by my friend Carlos Cordova. He wrote an awesome essay in 2009, and he did great research, and he's the one that actually let me know of other writings of Jose Vasconcelos. And the other writings of Jose Vasconcelos come from where he wrote like actual essays called, let me look here, the Criollo, El Ulises. That's another writing that he wrote, El Ulises. And so before we get to that writing, let me quote from Raza Cosmica, just to give you more receipts to what we're talking about here. So in Raza Cosmica, Jose Vasconcelos writes, even the pure Indians are Hispanicized. They are Latinized, just as the environment itself is Latinized. Say what one may, the red men, the illustrious Atlanteans from whom Indians derive, went to sleep millions of years ago, never to awaken. The Indian has no other door to the future but the door of modern culture, nor any other road but the road of already cleared by Latin civilization. Viva la raza. That's what that comes from. This is the writings of Jose Vasconcelos. Disgusting the way he expresses himself about our people. This is another quote from Raza Cosmica. The Indian can graft himself onto the Spanish race and make the jump of millions of years that separate Atlantis from our times, and of course ultimately disappear along with blacks. This idea further highlighted is he actually had a debate with Gamion, and he basically was promoting the idea of population control. He was saying that blacks shouldn't really breed, indigenous should breed, but it's questionable like what the potential will be. I mean, this was really normalized in Mexican academia and global discussions and presentations. And now this one is from the Criollo Ulises. That's the one that I was telling you. This is his autobiography that he wrote. And this is what he expressed of himself. He says, I point out there the danger of an Indianism which does not build on the work of Spain. Woo, okay. And by the means of which the Indian now has an Indian country that destroys or abuses the work of Spain. Otherwise, having no worthwhile tradition of his own, the Indian would be left to the mercy of new and strange ideologies. So again, the whole foundation of Raza Cosmica is dripping with this Eurocentric view of civilization, of progress, of science. So basically saying that we had no tradition of our own and that we would be left to the mercy of all these foreign ideologies. So might as well assimilate and accept Spanish, right? Now, another one that I found in Ulises Criollo is, this is his quote. It says, I noticed how small the white population was and how many Indians from the surrounding highlands were invading the streets, wrapped in their blankets, silent and impassive. And I understood the whole tragic process of the history of Mexico. It lies in this displacement and the exhaustion of the conquering and civilizing Spanish blood. So, there you have it. This is the actual racial thinking, eugenics thinking of Jose Vasconcelos. Now, I want to end this brief presentation for this last quote. It says, you cannot find in the peoples of history any that are more limited in the power to change and the progress than the aboriginal races of the two Americas. Imagine that our peoples were turned into and suddenly they were pried loose from their European colonial matrix. That tells you almost everything we need to know about Jose Vasconcelos. Now, it's important to study this. It's important to expose it. It's important to understand it. And I think what the part that gets me the most is that this ideology is real. Like, it continues to this very day. Years back, I heard someone in my family, very close to me, older person, say, vamos a mejorar la raza, right? And the discussion was date lighter, date whiter. If you can't date a white guy, at least get yourself a real light Mexican or Central American, you know? And I was just listening to it and I was like, wow, like this is real, you guys. Like this ideology of white supremacy, this concept of raza, it's there, it's alive, and it continues to damage our psyche. It continues to damage our youth. We are continuing to infect our generation with this. So we really should challenge ourselves to decolonize, to really be critical of how these identities were constructed and how they were implemented in our culture and what purpose they serve. So with that, I just wanted to elaborate more on La Raza Cosmica. I will leave a link down here in this video so you can read this great article that my friend wrote back in 2009. And it's called Viva la Raza, Jose Vasconcelos and the White Supremacy Behind the Concept of La Raza, in his book, La Raza Cosmica. It was written in 2009 by Carlos Cordova, a great person, a great friend of mine, a great Nicantlaca warrior. So with that, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching. Let's stay awake. Let's stay decolonizing. Let's stay positive. And let's keep dismantling white supremacy.